I'm joined today by the former Players Champion, Paul Nicholson. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Burton. It's nice to hear your voice. It's been a while.
Yes, likewise. Lots to discuss with you. First of all, we've just wrapped up Champions Week in the Modus League, where 16-year-old Luke Littler retained his title. You were there in Portsmouth calling it from the commentary box. How special of a talent is Luke?
He is quite the talent when you consider how young he is and how much experience he already has at that age. Everybody's getting excited about this young man, and rightly so. I think there's going to be a lot of talk about Luke in the next few months because of what he's done this year and what he's done the previous 2 seasons. I don't think that should be forgotten, because he did win a gold ranking event in the WDF at the age of 14, but he's been to Lakeside. It looks like he's going to Alexandra Palace at the end of the year as well, and he has the decision to take a tour card as well, if indeed the development tour stuff over the next couple of weeks goes his way, which it looks like it probably should. So big times ahead for him. I'm just excited that he's got so many great opportunities, and now there's going to be a lot of press about him, and it's how he and his team handle that which will stipulate just how successful he could possibly be.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, Paul. Sticking with Luke, we've got the final weekend of the development tour coming up next week. As you mentioned there, Luke currently in a spot for Ali Pali and a tour card. If he were to get a tour card, from your point of view, if he was asking for advice, would you be saying go for it? We know the ability that he's got, or do you feel it might just be a bit too soon?
Do you know what? This has been the question of the week already, and by the time we're recording this, it's only Tuesday. And people are looking at the calendar and thinking it looks like he's going to be safe for Alexandra Palace. And having a 16-year-old kid at Ali Pali at Christmas, that is a headline in itself. But as far as the tour card's concerned, I've spoken to people today about it, and I'm 50-50 at the minute. I get the feeling that over the next couple of months, when this decision will be made, there will be a lot of toing and froing from Luke, his family, his management, his sponsors. There will be people who will want him to go all guns blazing into the tour. But there are reasons to hold back. But then there are reasons for him not to hold back as well. So it'll be interesting to see what conclusion they come to. But with his talent the way it is and his ceiling of performance where it can be, then there's going to be a lot of people saying strike while the iron's hot, young man, because you can make a lot of money and make a very big impact in a very short space of time.
We'll see about that. But another newcomer to the world of darts is, of course, the Modus League. You've been involved in the Modus Super Series for a while now, as we've seen it evolve from just 3 years ago during the pandemic being played online in people's homes to then being played in a small room and now being held on a stage with a crowd every Saturday. What do you think is the next step in the evolution of the Modus Super Series?
That's a really interesting question, Burton, because I've been asking myself that same question and speaking about that with our producers and a lot of the backstage talent who put the things on the air. I think what they've done in the last 6 months, which has been very clever, is trying to attract more players from countries like Germany, more from the Netherlands, more from Belgium. We've even had a couple of players from Luxembourg, which I think was very encouraging. So that part of Europe is starting to throw more players our way, and we're being more susceptible to giving them a chance. So if someone thinks they're good enough and they get this opportunity, then the vehicle is there for you to make a lot of money and to give yourself that little platform moving forward, which has been used really well by the likes of Raymond Smith from Australia and by Luke Littler in the last couple of series, not to mention Conan Whitehead, the first champion. But I think as far as the evolution is concerned, I think it will be a slower evolution from here on out, because when we started at home, we all just wanted to play darts and we wanted to give somebody else something to watch. And it served that purpose. And when you saw David Evans and Richie Edhouse use the success from the at-home stuff to get their tour cards, we all thought that this was a launch platform for people to go on and do greater things, and it has served that purpose. but it's taken on a different identity now. What I also think is that people are making different choices now when it comes to the Modus Super Series, whereas it was seen as a launching platform for certain people to go and do other things, like going to the PDC circuit. We saw what it did for Dave Evans and for Richie Edhouse in the very start of it when we played from home. But now there are people who are saying, I can't fully commit to the PDC circuit as a top pro, but what I can commit to is playing in 4 different series a year on top of playing seniors and maybe doing some other independent stuff as well. I mean, you look at someone like Robert Thornton, the current World Seniors champion, he's probably got a better balance of darts now at his age, and it gives him more time with his family in Scotland. He's just one example. I mean, he could indeed go back to Q School in January and try and get his privileges back, and that wouldn't be a surprise. But now it's not a surprise if he wasn't to do that because of the Modus Super Series and the seniors. So there are options out there for players depending on what they actually want to do. But I think the evolution of this product going forward is going to be slower, and they're going to be focusing more on the Far East. They're going to be focusing heavily on North America, I believe, to give other people around the world the opportunity to do what Raymond Smith did in Series 2, which was change the game.
Yeah, definitely. And you talk about the view of the players towards the Modus Super Series. I'm interested to get your thoughts on the views of the fans as well, because I tuned in for the finals on Saturday night and quite enjoyed it as well, apart from the long breaks between some of the games. But I can see that the perception of the Modus League is something that has changed. At the start, a lot of the people were wary about it being put on just for the bookmakers, but now it's attracted an audience that are watching purely to enjoy the darts, and players are queuing up to play in it, including, of course, our friend Jamie Robinson. So have you noticed that shift in how it's being viewed by the fans as well?
I wondered how long it would be before you mentioned Jamie. Do you want to give Vengeance Simeonidis a bit of a shout as well?
I forgot how to spell his surname. That's why I forgot to put him in.
As far as the players are concerned, I think their attitude towards it has changed first and foremost because they see it as a great way of making money and a great way to enhance their form. There's no substitute for match practice. Now, Chris Mason says all the time that the exposure to playing under lights in front of cameras, doing it this way, is almost fast-tracking the experience that players had in the previous generation, which I think is genius. I think that has given people like Luke Littler and some others the opportunity to feel comfortable in that environment quicker. It's the same as playing poker online. People were playing hands over 3 months, and it would take old school pros at tables years to get that experience. So that's one. With the fans, we do have our hardcore Modus Super Series fans, and even some people who turn up in T-shirts saying, "That's Modus, baby," on a Saturday night. I mean, it does have its own niche following. But here's the biggest thing. There are certain players who come along and attract more fans than others. We were flabbergasted on Saturday night by the YouTube figures, because we usually get something along the lines of, 300, 400, 500 during the day when we've got a Group A scenario. A little bit more than that on Thursdays and Friday nights, but when it comes to Saturday, you get a few more. When we were live for the finals on Saturday night with Littler and all the others, we were over 4,000 live, and we were getting more than Live Golf were getting live. And I thought to myself, this has got quite the following then. And things have changed, whether it was the Luke Littler effect, whether it was anybody else, but we got big numbers, and that has been noticed.
Moving on, we know you're involved in lots of different darts events as a commentator. Last time we had you on, in fact, was during Lakeside in April 2022. You spoke to Alex at that time about your coaching role within the JDC. How is that still going, or how's that been going since we last chatted with you?
I have done a bit of private coaching with some clients. It was well documented. Luke Humphreys came out and said that I helped him a little bit before he started to really climb up the rankings. I still speak with Luke. We don't actually have a relationship in a coaching sense, but I always look after his best interests, giving him tips and tricks whenever he needs them. But I get a really big kick out of helping other people. And that's one of the reasons why people come to me. They always ask me for help. And if it's in a structured environment where it's safe to do a structured coaching session, I can still do that. I haven't done a great deal recently because the venue that I was using over the summer has chosen not to open during the day. So I'll go back to it in the autumn. So I've had a bit of a break from coaching, which has been quite nice, just to spend a bit of time on the golf course and things like that. But I really do get a kick from helping people move forward. And without naming names, because everybody who works in the coaching industry, they don't want to name the name of their clients. But I spoke to an amateur player recently, and what I sent them away to do, they came back to me within a few days and said, I've just won my league singles through some of the tricks and some of the structure that you gave me. And I get more of a kick out of that than hitting a double 16 myself. It's a strange feeling now that it happens, but I think there's going to be more people like me doing things like this moving forward, because coaching is in its infancy and people are only just starting to believe in it the way they should. I think what the JDC started with their qualification was very important, but in order for that to really mushroom, you need people who believe in the coaching platform and for it to get better. You need people like me. You need people who have signed up to that JDC course. And this is going to have to be a worldwide change, and it will be, but it will take time.
Glad to hear that's going well. And Burton mentioned about the Lakeside, April 2022, the first WDF World Championship. That event returns in December of this year, 2023. So it's been a long wait between the events. We've recently seen as well the World Masters postponed for this year. So how do you assess things with the WDF at the moment?
It's interesting, isn't it? I think it's very hard to judge what's happening in the WDF without actually being in the room where some of these discussions are being made. I think what they've got is a product that has got a very, very fine reach. You think about what's just happened over the weekend in Japan with the Bud Brick Memorial, and you see Yuki Sakaguchi winning that, and you see some other Japanese male talents coming through. That's encouraging. And then you see that there are plenty of Australian WDF events still going because it's still strong down there. I think when you see events not going ahead, like the World Masters, that automatically puts the fan on the back foot and the skeptics on the front foot. But I think what we need to understand is that it's a very competitive market. You've got the Modus Super Series, you've got the PDC, you've got all of their different platforms with the Challenge Tour, Development Tour. And ultimately what the WDF are trying to do is facilitate an amateur product worldwide. And it's not even that big an operation. They're having to rely on affiliates worldwide, and it's not an easy job that they have. But what we do have in December is a world championship that is going to be littered with sharp talent. And if you think about how good the tournament was when Neil Duff won, that was dramatic. It was great to watch. And we want more tournaments like that, ultimately, to watch on whatever network they can find to broadcast it on. I mean, just imagine what's possible in early December. There's loads of people who will think that Andy Barton's should win it. And then you've got loads of other people who have had superb seasons. I think you could have a great tournament, and it's what they need to almost refresh what they want to do. I think what the WDF need is television backing for a good period of time, be it 2 or 3 years. They need some good sponsors so they can have guaranteed prize money. And I think they need some momentum as well, whether you believe in momentum or not. But I believe that that's what they need moving forward. And if they get that, they could have a really great product for the next few seasons.
Now, earlier today, Alex spoke with Nick Rolls. And an interesting scenario is whether the PDC will allow players who play at Lakeside to play at Alley Pally. Nick told Alex that as far as the WDF is concerned, they're fine with it, but the ball's in the PDC court. The big name that obviously this affects would be Bo Greaves, the reigning women's world champion and current women's world matchplay champion, the PDC. If the PDC whether she plays obviously is now in the PDC's court, but what's your take on it?
I think when you talk about Bo Greaves, I don't really think it harms the PDC at all. if she plays in the Women's World Championship. She could be a 2-time current Women's World Champion going into the PDC Worlds. I don't see any harm in that at all. I think it's great publicity, so it doesn't harm anybody, in my opinion. But I can see where the PDC would maybe have their nose out of joint if it was, I don't know, take someone who might qualify for Alexandra Palace and then qualify for Lakeside. So the worst case scenario is that you have someone who has won Lakeside and then goes on to play in the PDC Worlds. And I just don't think that sits well. It's different, I think, with the Ladies' Championship because they have a lot less tournaments over the course of the year. And the Ladies' World Championship has always been seen as a different one to Ali Pali. You've seen, Lisa Ashton's gone there and Mikuru Suzuki's gone there. It's never been a problem. But historically, there's always been this, you are going to play at Lakeside or at the PDC Worlds. Whether that changes or not is entirely up to Matt Porter and his team, and they will take everything under consideration. But me personally, I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I think you've got to make a choice. Do you want to put your eggs in the Lakeside basket or do you want to go for Ali Pali? And there are going to be people out there who will qualify for both, and it's entirely up to them just how much they want to go for it. And I'll be interested to see what happens.
Yeah, we should mention as well, we were chatting with Nick, there is a meeting lined up with the PDC at the end of this month, so we will know one way or another what the PDC's stance is on that. And speaking of Bo Greaves, we spoke about her, we spoke about Luke Littler, but Bo Greaves right up there alongside Luke as one of the brightest young prospects in darts at the moment. She's dominated the Women's Series, she's won the Women's World Matchplay as well. What do you think's next for her? What events would you like to see Bo enter for her next step in her progression?
Well, this is a really interesting time for Bo, wasn't it? Because everything she enters, she wins. And her record in Women's Series darts over the last 12 months is frightening. And when you consider just before she started to dominate, we had a real two-person cabal of Sherrick and Ashton just hoovering up ranking points and money. But now, you look at how much Mikuru Suzuki has improved, and she's got nowhere near what Bo Greaves has done. I like the fact that the game is starting to thrive. You look a little bit further down the order of merit, you've got the likes of Robin Byrne coming through and Nolan van Leuven. It's just a lot more talent that's reaching a better level. But Greaves is so far ahead of everybody else. It's quite frightening. But as far as her progression is concerned, I think she's taken it at a nice pace. I think going all guns blazing into things like Challenge Tours, Modus Super Series, and playing a lot of darts. I'm not necessarily a fan of her doing that, and I think she's doing it right. So defending her World Championship, definitely. Playing at the Grand Slam, absolutely. That is a really nice window of opportunity for her to improve even more against some construed tougher opponent. And playing at Ali Pali again to see if she can join the club of one that has won a match as a lady at the World Championship at Ali Pali. That would be interesting to see if she could do that this year. So I think what she's already got guaranteed is enough to test her again. Anything beyond that, I think it would just be her keeping sharp for those challenges at the end of 2023.
Well, speaking of the match play, of course, Bo Greaves winning her first Women's World Matchplay, Nathan Aspinall also winning in Blackpool. Alex remembers that you complimented us on the chat that he had with Nathan around 18 months ago at the start of his comeback from injury. And now look at where he is now. 2 major finals last year, and now the World Matchplay title a little under 2 weeks ago now. How impressed have you been with Nathan's comeback from injury?
It's been very nice to see, because everybody loves Nathan. You speak to all of the staff at events, people backstage, security, commentators, everybody loves him. And we were genuinely scared for him when his career was on the line. The fact that he's come back and arguably better than ever, I think it's fantastic for the game, because he's box office to watch. He's got a new ceiling of performance, I think. And what's frightening is that the darts that are getting slimmer are giving him incremental improvements again, which means his ceiling could possibly rise. I think he's a superstar. I absolutely love him. He's a great person to be around. He gets on with all of the players, and he makes the players feel better in the practice room as well. He's just one of those positive influences that he doesn't seem to be a positivity hoover. He doesn't take it away from people. He actually spreads it out to other people, which is one of the best things about him. And it'll be really interesting to see where he goes from here as a match play champion. I don't necessarily think there's more pressure on him now because he's done that. I think this is just a continuation of his legacy. And now we can look to do what the likes of Peter Wright and Gerwyn Price have done in trying to add to that legacy by winning other tournaments. And that is way more likely than it was before Blackpool.
Yeah, Nathan was definitely a popular winner of the match play. Well, let's touch on your darts as well, because we saw you play on the Modus League in October last year. You said that you're going to have one more crack at Q School. We didn't see you there this year. So is the plan still to have one more go at Q School, or have your plans for your own playing career changed?
Do you know what, Alex? At the minute, I just don't know. The problem I've got at the minute is that I'm in such demand with the media that I haven't had a holiday in 3.5 years. Now, that's before COVID. So you think about what I did with the Super Series through its development, the testing before it even went to air. I've started doing work with the PDC for Players Championships and Euro Tours have continued. And then there's, Minehead trips, and trying to balance all of that with trying to find a way to come back as a player. It's been very difficult. I'm not going to lie. I get asked about it most weeks. I do throw when I'm at home, and I still need to work with my sponsors, Winmore, about getting the right equipment in my hand, because let's face it, I don't have the time to put in that some players have got. Because if I'm doing a Modus week, I'm working 60, 70 hours in that week, and then I get home on a Sunday, and that for me is a day where I just have to recharge my batteries. I'm never going to say it's all over just like that, because I can still throw a dart, and I still enjoy throwing a dart. But as for me coming back as a professional or someone who is competitive, that's something that I am deeply thinking about at the minute. And my immediate journey, I'm not sure what it is.
So let's get back to you and your work with the guys at Sporting Life. Mainly been written content so far, but we did see you during the match play as you ventured out onto the pier in Blackpool to try your hand at some of the darts games there. Just how much money did you end up having to spend to win all those prizes?
That's such a good question. And I can reveal it was £45. I'm not ashamed of it because it was great fun. But I still couldn't get over the fact that it was £5 for 3 darts. And I thought, things on the pier have changed since the old days when it was about 50p. But yeah, it was good fun to film that stuff. It was performed as a bit of a skit, but I think it was more a bit of fun than anything else. But it was great fun. I love working with those guys. They're really passionate about getting some good views out there and digging deeper into the psychology of the sport and what's coming up and what's possible. And working with Chris Hammer and the team, including Dom Newton at Sporting Life over the last 3.5 years, it's been great because it's given me this passion that I didn't know I had, which was to write about the sport that I care about and to talk about some of the subjects that I feel should be spoken about. And only 1 or 2 times have I had people come back to me and say, why did you write this about me? And obviously everybody knows about the Gary Anderson thing from earlier this season. But I've had a couple of others where they said, what you said there was inaccurate, that kind of thing. And that just comes with being a journalist. But I really do love writing about stuff. And I'd like to keep some sort of journalistic integrity by not betraying confidences or saying stuff that I've just heard on the grapevine. I'd like to keep it factual and true and concise. And I hope I'm able to do that because I really love to do it.
Yeah, it's always an interesting read. And shout out to the guys at Sporting Life as well. Do go and check them out if you don't already. And I should mention as well, earlier this year that you made me very jealous when you commentated alongside the co-Stompe during the World Seniors at the Circus Tavern. I was there for the first 2 days. The only reason was to see co-play live. You had a picture with him, then you went one better and commentated with him. So what was it like to share the booth with the greatest of all time?
Do you know what, Alex? I think there are moments when you do what you do. You look at your monitor, you've got your microphone to your lips, you've got your earphones on, and you have to take a moment and you have to look next to you and realize where you are and who you're with. I've had moments like that with Jim Proudfoot, who is my commentating god and probably always will be. He is so incredible. He's gone on to much bigger things since we first commentated with each other in 2012. But I still look at the people that I work with now in that way. People like Ian Danter at TalkSport, Mark Wilson, Chris Mason, Dan Dawson, who I revere because he's just insanely intelligent. But to look to my right when I was at the Circus Tavern and be speaking with Coach Stompe, who I got to know really well as a player, I actually went back maybe 20, 22 years thinking, I used to watch you on the telly. And now I'm commentating with you, telling you how to do this. And it felt very strange. But it reminded me of that young boy that wanted to be involved in this sport so badly. And I felt incredibly lucky to have that opportunity. So everybody at the seniors, the two Jasons who put me in that seat, and Chris Murphy, who was my wingman that week, what a moment to commentate with Co. It was brilliant, and he really was an excellent Co-commentator. I really enjoyed it.
Well, hopefully you'll get to commentate with the true GOAT, Mark Walsh, at some point in the near future. But lastly, whenever we have you on the show, we always like to ask you for a prediction. We're not talking just before a major event. It's almost 2 months until the next one. But we're going to mix it up. Chris Dobie and Andrew Gilding have both managed to win their first majors in the PDC this year. Bo Greaves as well, I guess, in the PDC. Will we see another first-time major winner in the PDC this season? And if you're going to say yes, can you tell us who it'll be?
I wouldn't be surprised. I did make a prediction at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, that Luke Humphries would break through. I mean, he's sixth in the world and has been to fifth without winning a major championship. I mean, that is frightening. But as for someone outside of Luke, I mean, you look down the list now, there's actually not that many that haven't. You know, Cullen's won one. Danny Nopper, Cross has won on another World Series title recently. But I'd like to think that there would be another new name on one of the trophies, one of the bigger ones as well. So if I'm not going for Humphries, I would probably have to go for someone like Ryan Searle. I love his game. And I thought there were signs at Blackpool that maybe he'd figured out just how to manage that big stage. That 105 average that he put in round one, that was a real watershed moment for him. And I really think that's something he can kick on from. So I'm going to say Ryan Searle.
All right, Paul. Well, we'll see if you're correct with that prediction. Best of luck, and thank you for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Love listening to you guys. Keep up the great work.